impact it had, especially on veterans.
Yeah, from what I remember, Spielberg really went all out to make it authentic.
He did. I mean, he even consulted with veterans, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. He wanted to go beyond just recreating the event. He wanted to get the viewer right there in the boots of the soldiers landing on Omaha Beach.
And it worked, judging from the reactions in our sources.
Powerful stuff.
Some veterans found it incredibly difficult to watch.
Yeah, understandable.
Triggering memories, emotions they'd buried for years. Others felt it was the most accurate depiction of D-Day they'd ever seen.
So it wasn't just entertainment for them. It was almost like a confrontation with the realities of war.
Which is a powerful thing for a film to do.
Absolutely. And, Spielberg doesn't shy away from the brutality of it all, but he also captures the courage, the camaraderie.
The chaos.
Clear the room! 30 seconds! Got me with you!
Port side stick, starboard side stick. Move fast and clear those murder holes.
Want to see plenty of beach between men. 5 men is a juicy opportunity. 1 man's a waste of ammo.
Get the sand out of your weapons. Keep those actions clear. I'll see you on the beach.
Exactly. Everything that defines that day.
Okay, so let's unpack how he does that, what specific choices create that impact. The thing that always gets me first is just the visuals. The use of amputee actors, that incredibly realistic special effects makeup.
It's not just blood and gore.
No, it's the visceral impact of seeing those injuries depicted with such unflinching accuracy.
It's the detail. It's astonishing. And it goes beyond just the visuals.
Yeah, what else?
Well, Spielberg insisted on using practical effects as much as possible.
Uh-huh.
Real explosions, hundreds of extras struggling through the surf. Even just the way the uniforms clung to the actors after being soaked through.
Adds to the realism.
Yeah.
The sources mention how tough that was to film. They shot those beach scenes in sequence over weeks, with the actors and crew exposed to the elements. Just like the real soldiers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have added to the performances, wouldn't you think?
Oh, absolutely. The exhaustion, the fear, the sheer physicality of what those actors went through, it's there in every frame of the scene.
It's definitely not your typical Hollywood action sequence.
Not at all. Every step, every movement feels... like a struggle for survival.
Which brings us to the camera work.
Okay.
A lot of handheld cameras in that scene, creating that sense of immediacy and, of course, the chaos.
Yeah, you don't get those big, sweeping, epic shots. It's all close-up, shaky, almost documentary-like.
Right.
And I noticed the camera often focuses on these tiny details, A soldier's trembling hand, or a look of terror in someone's eyes, a bullet piercing a helmet.
It puts you right there.
Right into the heart of the action. It makes it so personal.
Like you're experiencing the landing through the eyes of the soldiers. Claustrophobic, disorienting, but incredibly effective.
Do you think that approach, all that shakiness, makes it harder to connect with the characters, though?
Interesting question. It could go either way, maybe.
Yeah.
On one hand, the shaky camera, that frantic editing, it could feel distancing. like we're watching a chaotic newsreel.
Mm-hmm.
But then those close-ups, the focus on individual reactions, they're incredibly intimate, emotional.
It's both at the same time.
Exactly. It's that tension between detachment and intimacy that really gets you.
Yeah.
You're a spectator to this horror, but you're also in the trenches with them.
And that color palette definitely adds to the feeling of being transported back in time.
Oh, yeah.
Cinematographer Janusz Kamiński, he uses this bleached, almost sepia-toned look.
Like old war photographs.
Exactly.
Bar.
Feels more like a memory than a typical, action movie.
And speaking of evocative,
Yeah.
the sound design in this scene, it's unforgettable.
Oh, for sure.
The choice to omit music during the landing was bold.
So all you hear is the battle, the gunfire, the explosions, the cries of wounded soldiers. It's one of the most intense audio experiences I've ever had in a film. And it's fascinating how Spielberg uses sound to represent the psychological impact, too. There are these moments where the sound gets muffled.
Almost like you're underwater.
Yeah. Reflecting. That disorientation, that sensory overload the soldiers are experiencing.
Brilliant. That's not just recreating the sounds of war. It's a glimpse into their minds.
Yeah. And it makes you realize that the wounds of war aren't just physical, right? This scene forces you to confront that emotional, the psychological toll as well.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to dig into next. How does Spielberg, amidst all of this chaos and spectacle, manage to tell these deeply personal stories? How does he make us feel the weight of each individual sacrifice? It really is amazing how Spielberg can portray that grand scale of war, but never lose sight of the individuals caught in the crossfire.
Yeah. The sources really highlight how he does that.
Like what?
Well, one of the things is the use of close-ups. Instead of just showing us those big battle scenes, he zooms in on the soldiers' faces.
Makes it personal.
So we see their fear, their determination,
Yeah.
even their vulnerability.
It's powerful.
Yeah. Think about that shot of Captain Miller, Tom Hanks,
Yeah.
when he's trying to light a cigarette
Oh, right.
and his hand is shaking uncontrollably.
You realize right then, even this hardened soldier is dealing with the pressure and the terror of what's happening.
It's such a small detail, but so powerful.
Totally. It humanizes these soldiers.
It reminds us they're not just, action figures.
They're real people.
Real people with real emotions. And
It's not just close-ups on the main characters either.
Sure.
He also focuses on the reactions of the soldiers around them.
Oh, yeah. You see fear,
Shock.
resignation even.
It just reinforces that idea that each soldier on that beach, has his own story.
His own hopes and fears.
And while we may not know their names...
Their faces stay with you.
Exactly. This scene really drives home the point that war isn't just about statistics
Right.
and strategies.
It's about individual lives.
being irrevocably changed.
And I think that's why it's so impactful. It's not just a spectacle of violence. you know?
It's an exploration of the human cost of war.
And Spielberg does not hold.
What do we do now, sir? Get Miller! Get Miller! Sergeant Horner! Move your men off the beach! Go! Hey, you guys! Get out my ass! Sir! What's the rallying point?
Anywhere but here!
Make way for the other! This is all we've got between us and the Almighty!
Every inch of this beach has been pre-sighted! You stay here, you're dead now!
Back.
Yeah.
I mean, the violence in this scene is
It's graphic.
unflinching.
Hard to walk.
Incredibly difficult to watch.
Absolutely. He wanted to show the true horrors of war.
Not a sanitized version.
Right. And that was a real departure from a lot of war films that came before.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to talk about casualties,
Sure.
but it's another to see the bloodshed, the injuries, you know, the sheer brutality of it.
So not an easy watch.
Definitely not.
But maybe that's part of what makes it so important.
I think so.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront the reality of war.
To understand the sacrifices made by those who fought on that beach.
What do you think, as someone interested in both film and history,
Hmm.
is there a line when it comes to depicting violence on screen?
That's a tough question. I mean, I can see both sides.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it's important to be honest about the horrors of war.
Not to shy away from the truth.
Right. But on the other hand...
What are you guys?
104th Medical Battalion, sir! Here to set up field operations!
Get rid of that crap! Grab yourself some weapons! Follow me!
I'm hit low! Gas! Navy Beach Battalion, sir! I got it!
And I get the concern that too much violence can be gratuitous.
Or desensitizing.
Yeah. It's a tough balance, for sure.
It is.
And ultimately, I think it comes down to the filmmaker's intent, you know?
Yeah.
Are they trying to exploit or just entertain?
Or are they trying to illuminate?
Make a statement.
In the case of Saving Private Ryan, I think it's pretty clear,
Spielberg's intent.
was to honor the sacrifices
Of those who serve.
and to really educate the audience about the true cost of war.
I agree. It's both a tribute and a warning.
It is. But let's shift gears a bit to another aspect that adds to the emotional weight of the scene,
Okay.
which is that focus on individual stories,
Yeah.
you know, amidst this larger conflict.
Like we were talking about before with the close-ups.
Exactly. We have these characters like Captain Miller
Right.
who emerge as these focal points.
In allowing us to connect with their personal experience as soldiers.
Right. We see Miller struggling not only with the physical challenges,
Uh,
but also the weight of leadership.
big responsibility.
Yeah, the responsibility for the lives of his men.
And through him, we...
Clear these obstacles! Make holes for the tanks!
All the others foundering in the channel!
Order, sir! You go somewhere else! I'm clearing this one!
Come on, Briggs!
We get a glimpse into the psychological toll war takes.
Exactly. And it's not just the American soldiers either.
Yeah.
We see glimpses of the German soldiers too,
Reminding us that there are human beings on both sides.
each with their own, you know, motivations and fears.
Challenges that simple good versus evil narrative that we often see.
It acknowledges the complexity of war.
And the fact that there are casualties on all sides.
Exactly. And I think this approach, this more nuanced approach, creates a more empathetic viewing experience.
Thought-provoking.
It forces us to grapple with those moral ambiguities of war.
And the human cost that extends way beyond the battlefield.
Speaking of the human cost.
Yeah.
One of the sources mentions that scene with the medic.
Oh, yeah.
Desperately trying to save a wounded soldier while they're under heavy fire.
So powerful.
It's brief, but it's incredibly powerful.
It highlights the bravery and the compassion
of those serving.
That scene always gets to me. It's just a stark reminder that even amidst all that chaos and brutality, there are these incredible acts of selflessness.
And humanity.
Right.
It underscores the idea that war isn't just about fighting the enemy.
It's about supporting your comrades.
Looking out for one another.
Even in the most dire circumstances.
It speaks to the bonds of brotherhood forged in combat.
Bonds that can be just as strong as family ties.
And it makes you think about the ripple effects.
Of war.
The impact it has, not just on the soldiers,
but on their families, their loved ones, their community.
This scene packs an emotional punch.
It really does, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how Spielberg achieves that without resorting to melodrama.
Or sentimentality.
Yeah, those emotions feel raw.
Authentic. It's the performance.
The actors in this scene are phenomenal.
They convey such a range of emotion.
From fear and despair to courage and determination.
Tom Hanks especially. Yeah. He delivers a masterful performance.
As Captain Miller, you see the weight of command on his shoulders.
Trying to maintain composure.
In the face of unimaginable horror.
It's nuanced.
It's understated. He doesn't need to shout or make these big gestures to convey the depth of emotion.
A masterclass in acting.
It really is. And I think that's one of the key reasons this scene resonates so deeply with audiences.
Because we connect with Miller's humanity.
His vulnerability.
His commitment to his men.
It's a reminder that even amidst the most chaotic and destructive events, there are those who rise to the occasion.
Who demonstrate real courage.
And leadership.
And that message is so relevant today.
It is.
In a world that often feels so divided.
Uncertain.
Yeah. We need these reminders of our shared humanity.
Of our capacity for compassion.
And resilience.
And Saving Private Ryan, with its portrayal of war.
And its celebration of the human spirit.
It provides all that in spades. As we've been talking about all these layers, the emotional and psychological impact of this scene, I keep thinking about how Spielberg uses silence.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just this constant, wall of sound.
Right.
There are these moments where the chaos just suddenly drops away.
And you're left with this ringing quiet.
It's so effective.
It really is.
Because it forces you to confront the aftermath.
The devastation.
The lingering trauma.
It's in those silences that the weight of it all really sinks in, I think.
You almost feel like you're holding your breath.
With the characters.
Waiting for the next wave to hit.
Makes it even more immersive, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It also allows for reflection, process what we've just witnessed.
It's like Spielberg isn't trying to spoon-feed us the emotions.
He's inviting us to really think about it.
Engage with the material on a deeper level.
Exactly.
One of the sources mentions how some veterans describe those moments of silence as the most realistic part of the whole film, because it brought back that feeling of being in shock.
Trying to make sense of what was happening around them.
So it speaks to that authenticity Spielberg was after.
He wasn't just interested in recreating the spectacle,
He wanted to capture what was going on inside.
The internal experience of the soldiers.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another point, that the sources make this scene really subverts a lot of those traditional war movie tropes.
How so?
Well, there's no glorification of battle. You don't have these invincible heroes just mowing down the enemy.
Right. These soldiers are scared,
Vulnerable.
affected by what they're going through.
It's a far cry from, those John Wayne war films.
Where heroism was effortless.
And victory was a given.
Saving Private Ryan shows us a different side.
A grittier, more human side of war.
And it shows the consequences.
You see soldiers being ripped apart by explosions,
Drowning.
suffering horrific injuries.
It's not stylized or sanitized at all.
It's raw and unflinching.
Forcing the audience to confront the true cost.
Not just in terms of numbers.
But human suffering?
Do you think that was Spielberg's intention?
What do you mean?
To kind of challenge the way we typically view war in film?
I think so. I think he wanted to strip away the romanticism.
Mythology.
Yeah, and present a more realistic perspective.
And it's not just about challenging our perception of war in film.
It's about challenging our perception of war itself.
It makes you question the justifications for conflict.
The decisions that lead to such loss of life.
It reminds us that war isn't a game.
Or a glorious adventure.
It's brutal.
Chaotic.
And leaves these lasting scars on everyone involved.
Yeah. And even amidst all that darkness,
There are these moments of hope.
Glimmers of resilience.
Like the camaraderie between the soldiers. The way they look out for each other.
Try to lighten the mood.
Even in the face of death.
It's powerful. It's a testament to human connection in the most extreme circumstances.
Even in the midst of hell, there's still love, compassion, hope.
And that's what makes this scene so powerful. It doesn't offer easy answers.
Or solutions.
It just presents the complexities of war and the human experience.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the D-Day landing, what's the takeaway here?
Well, I think Saving Private Ryan is more than just a war movie.
Okay.
It's a masterpiece of filmmaking that uses every tool to tell a deeply human story.
About courage. Sacrifice the power of the human spirit.
It challenges us to confront the realities of war.
To remember those who served.
And to work towards a more peaceful future.
And if you haven't seen the film, I urge you to watch it. Or watch it again.
Pay attention to the details we talked about.
The visuals, the sound, the performances, the silences.
It's an unforgettable experience.
Profoundly moving.
Think about what emotions it evokes in you.
What does it tell you about war? About humanity? About yourself?
Because great art makes you think.
It challenges you.
And it stays with you long after you've experienced it.
And the D-Day landing scene from Saving Private Ryan definitely does all of that.
It sure does.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.